My name is Azishan Ali, and I'm going to be presenting to you guys about the U.S. airline industry. Now, talking about the airline industry, a famous quote comes to mind, and that's fly high or crash and burn. Now, we're not going to be talking about airplane crashes, thankfully, but we are going to be navigating through the complex financial sectors of the U.S. domestic airline industry. Now, you may be asking, why? What is the purpose of this story after all? Can't we just pour our preciously hard-earned money or our stakeholders' money, into a business or into a stock and then cross our fingers, tap our heels, and then hope that it's going to do well or the hope that customers are going to make us a profit? Well, the airline industry is an intricate and constant evolving web of competition, diversity, and regulation that demands a considerable amount of capital and labor investments. So, what's the problem? Well, preventing financial loss in the airline industry presents a very challenging proposition. According to the BTS, or the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, in 2019, the U.S. domestic airline industry had an operating revenue roughly about $170 billion. Tailing right behind it was the operating expense of about $160 billion. So as you can see, that leads to a very, very narrow profit margin. Now, by carefully analyzing the data, this allows us to make a better informed, data-driven decision rather than just jumping in blinding and hoping for the best. So to start us off, we've got our major KPIs here, and these are going to be our industry standard KPIs. You can see the expense, revenue, our passengers, operating profit, and operating profit margin. And to the right is the year-over-year calculations. I won't go into the nitty-gritty on how to do the calculations, so we'll move a little bit forward. And this is going to be our data dictionary. Now, it didn't always look this clean. Now, there's always, what I had to do is some extensive amounts of ETL. What that is massaging the data. So that way, it had to be done both in Excel and SQL, so we can easily import that data into Tableau and make a great presentation dashboard. So talking about the dashboard, let's bring that up right here. And as you can see here, this is a journey that spans about 23 years. It's a fully interactive dashboard, and our KPIs are here on the top shelf, followed by the year-over-year calculations. Everything is color coordinated, even down to the tooltip. So our top left chart here is going to be our revenue by our year chart. And as you can see, over time, it's trending up, and we've got a little dips here and there. We'll go into the insights later a bit on. Top right chart is our airline by revenue. And you can also automatically see the top big four that everybody loves to invest into is Delta, United, American, and Southwest. Our bottom left chart is going to be our bubble chart, which is going to be our revenue by year-over-year revenue. The size of that bubble is represented by the operating profit, and the color schema on that one is going to be by operating profit margin. The center pie chart is going to be our expense percent breakdown, and the bottom right is going to be our subtype by our operating profit, where you're going to be able to easily drill through this thing as well, drill down to this one as well. Okay. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to play around with this dashboard. What I'm going to do is going to move a little bit forward to a few key snapshots and insights that I've been able to find. So we'll move back into that presentation right here. So our first positive insight right here, you'll see the GIF playing on the top right-hand corner. Now, what this is that it's showcasing 2015 and 2018 industry-wide. There was a 114% increase in operating profit margin, giving an average of about 15% from the 2015 to 2018 over the previous 3 years. So in 2011 and 2014, our average OPM was about 7%, and this increased to an average OPM of about 15%. Now, this substantial achievement can be attributed to several factors when I was doing my market research, and that includes market consolidation, aka mergers. But one of the biggest things was fuel expenditures. So our percent breakdown, our fuel expenditure from 2011 to 2014 was at 31%. This shifted to a more profitable 19% from 2015 to 2018. So not only market consolidation, which leads to more demand and higher ticketing prices, but decreasing our actual biggest expense, which was fuel, allowed us to have a great positive during those 3 years. Now, we'll move over to the negative insight. And this one, we're going to up the granularity a little bit, and we concentrated towards United Airlines in 2008. Okay, so United Airlines reported a $2 billion loss and a dismal negative 9% OPM. And this highlights the actual depth of the crisis. But how do I know this is bad? Well, during the previous 2 years, in 2007 and 2006, United Airlines was generating a healthy $1 billion in profit and about 4% OPM. But in 2008, there was the housing market bubble actually crashed, and the US fell into a severe economic crisis. Despite heavy workforce layoffs, United and other airline industries couldn't help themselves from this devastating loss. Not only was that one of the reasons, but the fuel expenditure went from 27% up to 33%. So decreasing number of passengers flying and increasing expense leads to a $2 billion loss in 2008 for United Airlines. Now, we'll move on to suggestions and recommendations to wrap up everything pretty quickly. If you take a look at this picture, everything here has the ability to change the industry. Now, for our first two recommendations, we have our improving security measures and enhancing the crisis management protocol, along with strong branding. So the snapshot of this data shows the tooltip at 2000 and then 2001. So according to the data, the year 2000 was a very profitable season because they were showing about an all-time high of about $5 billion in operating profit and about 7% OPM. But then in 2001, America suffered a devastating 9/11 attack, unprecedented attack. And just in the last 4 months, which was September, October, November, December, led to a major industry loss of $7 billion. So this brings me to my first recommendation, which was improving security measures along with improving the crisis management protocol. So investing into research and development, improving screening technologies, and stricter identification requirements can help enhance the aviation security, along with improving your crisis preparedness, enhancing the communication, and working closely with governing bodies to help handle any situations and mitigate losses during a crisis. This recommendation is not only supported by the data, but also recommended by ICAO, or International Civil Aviation Organization. Now, if you take a look at this snapshot, you'll notice the two biggest losses here, American and United. And the main reason for that was they were the main companies that had their airplanes hijacked during that unforgettable event. But yet, even to this day, they are still the top 4 brands here in America. And that is because strong branding and reputation can help airline weather any crisis by building customer loyalty and trust. This recommendation is also backed by the Airline Passenger Experience Association, known as APEX. Now we'll move on to our third and fourth final recommendations. Now, if we go back to that 2008 financial crisis where United had lost close to $2 billion, but more importantly, we take a look at the fuel expenditure went from 27% to 33%. And that data directly leads me to my third recommendation, and that is fuel efficient aircrafts, in which airlines companies should invest into like fuel efficient aircrafts or even alternative research to reduce the operating costs and improve overall profitability. This recommendation is not only supported by the data, but also by International Air Transport Association as well. Now, lastly, our fourth recommendation, as you know, with major losses, the first thing that companies do is reduce the workforce. And we see this throughout every instance in the data. And this brings me to my fourth recommendation, investing into employee training and retention. What I mean by that is the classic saying, quality versus quantity. Upskilling an employee, making them much more robust and being able to fill out multiple roles will improve their quality to where in time of crisis, when and if you do have to do a labor force reduction, you do have your quality employees that can still maintain the backbone of your company. By doing this, not only can you decrease the overall expense, but when times are good, you'll then be able to then bring in other talent to fill in the roles. This recommendation is also supported by Harvard Business Review in their most recent article called Why the Airline Industry Needs to Change. Hopefully that was all of my suggestions and recommendations, and that is the end of my story. And thank you for listening.